How many syllables can you fit into a 16 bar verse? Because JID, on one hand, is one of the more extroverted rappers as far as the way that he tries to convince you that he can rap. But for the most part, his whole personality, for me, from what I've seen from a bird's eye view, to shout out Corday, is from it's like a person who personally is to himself, but when he gets on the mic, it's always an attempt to intentionally show you that he can rap, which we already know that, but it's to the point where there's a reason why some battle rappers aren't the greatest musicians, because if you can rap, doesn't mean you can make a good song. Saying that, JID and this track called My Boy, or My Boy, or however you say it, it's straight fire. I'm not going to say it's one of the greatest tracks of 2023. I'm not going to go that far, but it's a great track for the type of vibe that he's setting for Creed 3. So if you didn't know, Dreamville executive produced this track, and it's going to be on the official soundtrack of Creed 3 alongside Proximity Media and Frank Brim and Outlier Society. Basically, when it's attached to a soundtrack to a movie, there's a lot of other hands that are involved in the making of this track. You can't just say anything when it's attached to an official soundtrack. So for JID to be on this track for Creed, I will give it high kudos, because I remember the last Creed soundtrack. I don't know if it was the original Creed or Creed 2, but I think one, let me see if I can look this up. I think one producer specifically engineered the soundtrack. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, so let's look at Creed. So the Creed official soundtrack, the very first one, had Meek Mill on it, had Future, The Roots, John Legend, Tone. Oh, yo, this is crazy. It has a typo on the actual soundtrack. It says Tony Lanez, but it's really Tory Lanez. Or is this? Hold up, is this the real thing? I think that's fake. I think that was a collection made. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. Creed 2. Creed 2 is the one I'm talking about. This was specifically made by Mike Will Made It. And when I tell you this soundtrack was fire, I advise you, if you really enjoy hip hop, to look up Creed 2, the soundtrack, specifically produced by Mike Will, and the sounds he was promoting on this album. I mean, just listen to the track with, who was the Ray Shrimmer track? That's the one that really stood out to me. Watching Me with Ray Shrimmer and Kodak. I think that was the track. I don't know if Ray Shrimmer's on here twice. It was definitely the Ray Shrimmer track on here that did it for me. Yeah, I think it's that one. So the Watching Me track, and there was another one on here that was just straight fire. Oh, and then We Can Hit, which is featuring like some people that you don't even know, like, but for the most part, the beat is insane. Mike Will really produced what I think is personally one of the best soundtracks for a movie, because of the tension and the tone of that movie. It was very fitting, the type of mood that or the type of beats that Mike Will was coming with. So that Creed 2 and this Mike Will produced soundtrack album was straight fire. So that's why I bring that up, because for the most part, Creed really doesn't miss when it comes to soundtracks. So when it comes to My Boy by JID and Lute, they don't miss again. They're continuing the hot streak, and I'm excited to see what the Creed 3 soundtrack fully embodies, because I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Drake track on the soundtrack, because of course Michael B. Jordan and Drake hangs out sometimes, and they've been photoed together multiple times, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Drake feature on the Creed 3 soundtrack. And I don't think it's too far, that's a far reach, because if Michael B. Jordan needed a favor, I'm pretty sure Drake would come through for him, because, you know, he's probably came through for him at many other occasions, you know what I mean? When there's a reason why, you know, certain guys hang out together, because, you know, they let's just say the pool of dating may be similar. That's all I'm gonna say. But for the most part, I feel like Drake would come through with a feature. But that's just me projecting because I would like to hear new Drake whenever he wants to put out music. So, anyways, for the most part, JID and Lute put out a fire track called My Boy, and that just makes me even more excited for the Creed 3 soundtrack. So click my link tree in my bio. Let me know on one of my social medias. What do you think about the JID and Lute team up track, My Boy? And will you be giving the actual Creed 3 soundtrack a listen?